Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. This week is just the MMG crew on here. Well, part of it. But today we are going to be talking about the progression of Moss Marketing Group over the last 24 months and some of that business growth. We have just moved locations, so it looks a little different. And we've had a lot of people reaching out to us on just that success and that drive and what's leveled up our company and the companies we work with. So that's what we were going to talk about today. Thanks, everyone, for being on.
No, thanks for having us today.
So Moss Marketing Group started April 2020. It didn't really start then, though. That's when there was an LLC made. My vision of when a company starts is the first time a company gets paid. I feel like after you have a product that someone's willing to pay for, then you have a legitimate company. So June 30th, 2020, Moss Marketing Group receives the first check.
Big day.
It was a big day. It was that was like the holy grail of what I like. That was something I went out and I got my own check. And it was so cool on just the start. And at that point,
Also being in the middle of a pandemic.
also in the middle of a pandemic. And I was sitting in an extra bedroom at my house. At that point, I didn't really even believe it was a company. I had a dream of what I wanted. And this dream was exactly where we're at now. And it's so cool to like watch that progression. And when I was sitting in that bedroom, it was 2 months? When did you start?
I started October.
I feel like this is going to work its way around the couch because that is the progression of as we grew.
It would have been October because I remember.
Yeah, I think it was October,
you guys about
middle
it.
of October.
Yeah. So you come on in October, and at that point we were still sitting in a bedroom, the same bedroom I'd started in.
Well, we were sitting in that bedroom, and you're like, hey,
That hot bed.
got another opportunity. Would you like to help out on it? And I was like, sure. And at that time, I was doing finance at a dealership. And the reason I wanted to join, just from what I saw this being, was didn't really feel like work. You're having fun. I'm getting to talk to people from all over, which is really cool in my opinion. And at the same time, making money.
Yeah.
Making money while having fun, I thought was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm down.
And at that point too, I had started like envisioning this. This is like a group of my best friends now. Like that's exactly what I was envisioning.
You definitely did because we had talked. You had told me like, yeah, I'm going to hire Dre. I think we were golfing or something at Excelsior. You're like, yeah, October I'm hiring Dre, and just kind of put that like seedling in, like I'm going to be hiring someone else sometime. Like, what do you think?
I'd already talked to Madison about that. Like, it's been pretty structured out of like the friend group acquisition of people coming on, but it's like there's nothing more I enjoy than coming to work every day. And once again, it doesn't feel like work. But that progression came to 3 of us sitting in that same bedroom. And you started in
It would have been April of 21.
April of 21.
So a year after you
Yeah.
initially started.
Yeah. Initially acquired the LLC. And
That room started getting pretty hot with 3 people.
the room definitely got a lot smaller really fast.
Yeah, squeezing by each other. Like,
What was the deciding factor when you looked to each person? Like, was there a moment that you either picked up a new account or you were doing your day-to-day tasks that you just knew, like, okay, I'm ready to hire Dre? And then same thing with Dalton.
it was just something I think a lot of business owners miss that boat on. They get so busy themselves that they don't know how to scale. Yeah. And I knew with what my vision was, it takes an army to do it. Yeah. So I just knew the second that I got like overwhelmed. So the way I've tried to structure everything out, and it doesn't, I know when that next level comes because I start working on the weekends.
Yeah.
When I start working Saturdays and Sundays, because I get so busy doing something again, like because we've hit that level of work, I know someone else it's time to come on.
Yeah. And you've done a really good job too. We talk about this all the time when we're talking about our strategy or where we're going. You do a really good job of realizing when you're starting to work too much in your business and not on it. Mm-hmm. And each time we continue to make decisions to grow and push farther, you do a really good job at allowing us to get more into a position to work on the business rather than in it too.
I think that's how scalability works. And there's never a shortage of work that we have to do. Yeah. And I think so many people and so many business owners think that there's like a shortage of work to try to acquire.
I think they're like, they go home, they're like, I'm done. I feel like starting a company, you're never done. There's always something else that needs to be done.
No, I sit there and I just told Dre, like today we're moving stuff for a new podcast room and I'm just like shattered, but I told him, I was like, I'm really excited about working Saturday all day and just having the office to myself to get stuff done because there's just so much that needs to be done that I just need to sit down and do. Yeah. But over the last week, we've been moving furniture. We've been doing all this other stuff. So we're wearing hats as moving crew, and then it comes on like the first. So then we have invoicing
Holiday
time.
Season,
yeah. So then you have people off work on Monday. So there's just so many things that all came like right in a very compact period that I'm excited to work a Saturday. Like, but it's also something I know that we're like right on that verge again, that it's like stacking up enough work that it's like we're almost to that point again. And it's like, I know right. And I feel it. And it's, if I start feeling overwhelmed with so much work, I know that's normally a time where I have to say, hey, what do we have to do to, and most of the time that's like the best thing that happens. Like you get so busy, then you're like, hired.
It's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be worse. You could not have any work at all.
That's true. We're like sitting here twiddling our thumbs like, oh, what the hell are we going to do today?
Yeah. And I think that's what holds a lot of business owners back too, is that instead of looking at it from the perspective of, hey, if I hire this extra employee, it's going to help me grow my business this amount. They look at it from the perspective of, what if I hire this employee and then I lose this business or I don't have enough to keep them busy? And that's something we've never done.
No. It was like as we were acquiring more people, I figured out our funnel process, everything we did worked so well across all platforms that we started implementing sales in the last couple months. Like what most people don't understand is the first 20-something months that we were open, we didn't do any sales. It was strictly people reaching out to me directly off of just our marketing. Like, and it was, we have also like, and we still do that and we still have that stuff coming off of our marketing that we do.
And word of mouth.
And word of mouth and things like that. But it's also, we've now implemented sales and with it to where what we thought scalability looked like this
flat line.
I wouldn't say, no, it's a line that's increasing, but you're looking at increasing so much over 12 months. Now all of a sudden we figured out that we implemented 2 months of sales and we just did what took 12 months. We just did it in 3.
Yeah. So the prime example there is it goes right back to hiring in person. So whenever I started in July of 21. So it's been 1 year for me. And I think when I started, we had been talking for, 4 or 5 months, just like everyone. We knew what was coming. And when I started, Dre was out photoing all day. So Dre was photoing, Dalton was photoing as well. And you and I were doing the marketing stuff, filming, taking pictures. Whenever we made the decision to hire Cody to help with photos, that's the moment that it freed up a lot of Dre's time so that he could start selling. And that's whenever that growth started to come. Because I think whenever I started, we had like 5 marketing accounts.
It was kind of funny because when we started, I started in the marketing space and I was like, I didn't know how to price something. I didn't know like really any of that. I was just like going in. People were like, "How much is it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers." See
what sounds fair?
And then they would say something like, "Whoa, that's a lot." I'm like, "Well, what do you think?" And I'm like, it was just like
Now we're to negotiating.
no, but it was like we don't negotiate with people anymore now. Like we know what our price structure is. We know what we need to be at. We understand everything so much better. Where in the beginning, I mean, I was shooting in the dark. And it's now we're running as like an industry leader of setting that benchmark of what that price should be. We're setting those numbers. And it's when Cody started and when Dre was out doing all those photos, I was working on the business or in the business 100% of the time. And I had no free time. Like, and this photo thing kind of like popped out of nowhere, which ended up being kind of a help for an influx of money into the business.
Yeah, it's cash flowing.
And it helped cash flow everything and gave us additional money to hire people.
Yeah.
And instead of me taking that money, like most business owners would be like, hey, well, I can sit there and say, hey, this person I pay X amount of dollars. It returns me X amount of dollars. I can just put that in my pocket and we roll down the road.
Exactly. Because you could quite honestly still be rolling with 3 of you and doing that.
Oh, I could be making.
He could be rolling by himself, having like a few accounts, and he's like, yeah, I'd work like 2 days a week.
Yeah, I was like, realistically, like when I left the dealership and within the first 2 months of me doing like the stuff on my own, I was making more money than I was working a very, very, very small fraction of the time I was before.
I had to pressure, man. I'm like, you need to hire me. He's like, what? I'm like, you need to do it.
He's like, well, I'm doing fine now. Like, no.
No, but it's one of those deals when you're looking at it, it's not as I knew I was going to take 5 years that were going to be uncomfortable, but I was going to just dump everything back into growing something big.
I mean, you can only do so much yourself, though, right? Like,
yeah,
if you wanted to take that route and you just did everything yourself, I mean, you'd still be in the same spot. But
sit in the same bedroom doing the exact same thing.
You would be in the same spot, but it goes into the same thing of you're comfortable with that, and then if anything changes, hypothetically, you lose one account. That turns your entire world upside down.
Which in the beginning, like the first account that ended up not even being so much like a loss, but it was like something that just had kind of like an altercation with it that just didn't see eye to eye on some things. And it was kind of a mutual, like we didn't want to work with them as much as
just a parting of ways.
Parting of ways. And it was still perfectly fine with all of them. But it was one of those things that at that point I thought like my whole world was crumbling down.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time I ever ever had an account that we weren't working with. And it was something that I'm talking with Madison about. She's like, but you were the one initiated like that you didn't want to work with them. I was like, well, I'm like, well, I don't believe what they were doing was right and everything. And I believe what we were doing was the correct way of doing it. And that's, they didn't understand the marketing space. And I was working on that stuff all day, every day. And I think as that has progressed, we've lost other accounts, but now it's not like we've lost accounts because they don't know how to run a business. We've worked with accounts that we've made them a lot of money, but there's some people out there that will never, ever understand how to manage money. You can go make them $1 million in a month and they'll be broke the next month. And I think when you start understanding that there's people like that out there, it brings a peace to yourself that, like, I have this peace now that we took on 2 accounts of the exact same or within a month of each other, that we brought more success to those 2 businesses than they'd ever seen, and both of which still could not figure out a way to pay us.
Yeah, and it seems to me that the accounts that always struggle with that too are the accounts that are always trying to negotiate in the beginning.
Yeah.
And if that's a lesson for all business owners, if someone can't realize the value of your product and why it costs so much in the beginning, they're probably not going to understand it once they use it either.
I think some of the best accounts that we have is when you sit down with a business owner and you go, if anyone sits down in front of myself as being a business owner and they can justify a way that can make Moss Marketing Group as a whole more money, it's going to be really hard for me to say no.
Sure.
like almost impossible for me to say no.
What if it works?
Like, and
then you just stop doing it.
but you'll meet with people and you'll be like going over a proposal or something and going over marketing strategy of what you think you can do to increase their business, and it could be a $3,000 or $5,000 account, and they go, well, what if I spent $8,000? What if I spent $10,000?
Yeah, what would I get if I doubled that?
We
Then
have
all
had
of a
that
sudden-
happen. You're like, well,
Yeah.
Those are the
give me
people
1
that you're
second. Let me pull some stuff
like, you
up.
know that it's like, you're like, that's the person I want to be working with.
Yeah.
Like, they see a grander vision of everything.
Yeah,
They're
and
like,
they're willing to spend the money to grow.
uh-huh.
Like it's not just like, whoa, apprehensive. Like, you know, I maybe want to try this. Like, I don't know, it's a lot of money, but yeah, people that are willing to just put it all out there. Which I know Dane has been the one to do that. I mean, we do see success with them
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think that goes right back into when we're talking about moving spaces from the bedroom to the basement.
I feel like we skipped over the basement.
We did.
We
I
definitely did.
definitely
We
did,
kind of
yeah.
just jumped off on a whole
probably have
other
to,
tangent.
like,
Let's reel it back.
But
Turn it back into
going
there.
right back to like that side is something where doing that. It's within the same house, but still, like if you're going from one building to another, scaling up, it's something where that can be very scary. But I've talked to companies right now that are like, I just can't find commercial space, and they're like, we need it because we know we need to grow, and a lot of times, a lot of companies just finding the space is hard. We got very fortunate of getting this space.
Which that's also, there's commercial space available, and that's where a lot of people I've talked to, and they're like, I'm like, we need to get out of the basement. I've been saying that for 6 months plus.
Yeah.
I'm like, we need to get out of the basement. We need to get out of the basement. And it was, I had a, oh my God, you just sneezed on the podcast.
Dalton said no one.
Jinxed it.
Yeah.
Wasn't even me.
No, but I was so set on like a certain type of space that could we have moved out a year ago? Yeah. Like we could have moved out whenever we wanted, but I was very picky on what I was looking for, because that goes right back to people not feeling like they're at work all the time. And I think a lot of people, I'd say probably 99% of people don't have no earthly idea what the basement setup looked like. And it was not bad.
We were just scattered all around boxes, tubs everywhere.
Yeah, it's
if you can just visualize your basement, that's what it was.
No, so I feel like the basement setup was good, and it worked for what we needed for a long time. But I think that also spoiled us on what that open work environment looked like, and the open concept of having a ping pong table, having a PS5 that you can jump on, play Call of Duty in the middle of work, like doing whatever, just enjoying being there.
Yeah.
And half the time Madison was coming down, she's like, it's 10 o'clock, get out of my house, like leave. Like she's like, let them go. I'm like, we're playing ping pong, playing Call of Duty, leave us alone. But I went and looked at office space so many times, and it's like if I went and looked at those white wall cubes, and I was like, I can't do that to myself, and I'm not even about to do that to anybody that works with
I mean, that can work for a lot of other companies. Just for this one, I don't think it fits the mold.
I want to make it to where every single person that ever walks in our door of Moss Marketing Group is like, I want to work there.
Well, I'm not going to say the day because this comes out on Monday, but within the past 2 days, one person that just came through, he's like, what does everyone do here?
Yeah, like we have people installing internet. They're like, he's like, what do you guys do? Like, you guys hire? Like, but it's just kind of funny where people come in. They're like, I want everyone to enjoy the work environment and things like that. And the basement was a huge stepping stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People still felt that way about the basement.
They did.
They're like, this is where you guys work.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, it is. Can't you see all the desks?
Can't you see all the cars parked out front?
Yeah. Can you see them lying down my
I can't believe the
street?
neighbors didn't call the HOA.
I
don't know how they did.
Really don't know how we got away
I got to
with that.
say, you have pretty good neighbors.
Yeah.
We
pretty,
do.
Pretty
I'm
cool.
going to have to give them a high kudos for that one.
Yeah, they're probably pretty happy this week, though.
They're probably like,
They're
what
like,
happened?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Company went under. Oh, no.
yeah.
I mean, they probably saw us moving stuff out the entire week.
Maybe. But on the basement, like, vibe, I feel like it brought something to that we didn't have in that bedroom.
AC. AC.
Space.
We had AC in the bedroom. It just heat rises. So the upstairs of the house was a little warmer than the basement.
Started from the
Plus
top,
we went
worked our
from
way
like,
down.
I don't know, a couple hundred square feet to 1,200, 1,500, whatever it was.
It was kind of funny too. Like when we move everything down, like right out the gate. First, what was it, like a Friday?
Well, it definitely evolved though, the basement through time. Like it.
No, it was a Friday when we started taking. No, I take that back. Friday, I went down and started doing all the walls on that middle wall.
Yeah.
So I worked a weekend.
We went to Home Depot and bought all the wood.
Yeah, so I
Redo the
worked.
walls. Yeah.
Worked for a weekend doing like the walls and wood and everything. And the funny part was when we started moving desks down there, the only thing I didn't really pay attention to was we didn't have any outlets. So we put our desk down there. We're setting our computers up, and we're like, Dalton. I remember Dalton setting up his desk, and he like looks at me. He's like, "Where do I plug this in at?" I'm like, "We don't have outlets."
I'll run an extension cord from the garage.
So I'm like calling electricians. I'm like, "I need outlets in the house today," and it was just the things that we had at that point, like of what our obstacles were.
As I say, issues, yeah.
I wouldn't say it was an issue, just like an obstacle that we have to overcome to what we have now is just such a like different. I remember us working for like, I don't know, probably a day or two, like moving stuff, like taking that bedroom, moving it downstairs, but there's like 3 of us. All of a sudden, like 8 of us
45 minutes, if that.
Yeah, then 8 of us moved literally my whole entire basement set up out in like a half a day. I'm like, well, I thought that was going to take like a half a week.
Yeah.
And we just
Everyone have hotspots on their phone. Everyone needs to get back to work.
But yeah, that's
What made you want to push out of the basement and then essentially buying a place or renting?
yeah. So I'd explored the option of buying and started looking at, I have the opportunity I could have bought. And I was looking at places and going back and forth and just really wasn't coming up with exactly what we wanted. And like I've said from the beginning, I didn't know what exactly it looked like, but I had an idea in my head of when I knew I was going to know. And I remember this place, it came on about 45 days ago. And the day it popped up, I'd been looking down the crossroads because we were wanting a larger amount of space. I wanted something that was 3,500 plus square feet. Yeah. And I wanted high ceilings. I wanted everything that just, it didn't feel like confined.
Like open.
Yeah. So Crossroads has a lot of that to offer. So I'd been watching a bunch of stuff down there, and the buying side stuff was very, I don't know, commercialized. Like, it just wasn't like, I don't know, not the vibe I was looking for. And this pops on I think it was a Wednesday. Comes on Wednesday, and I literally see it pop up that morning. Because I had gotten to the point that 7 days a week, every single morning I got up and I was looking at commercial space. First thing I did every single day when I got up. I'd go to the gym, I'd be sitting on the bike for like 30 minutes looking at commercial space. I'm like, if something comes up, I'm finding it today. And this place pops up, and I had actually contacted 2 other commercial real estate agents on 2 other properties. Neither one of them had even got back to me. For like, 3 days? I think I'd reached out to him.
Something like that. Phone calls, emails.
I was doing everything possible to try to get a hold of them. I'm like, do these people not want to do it? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And the guy that helped us with this space, his name was Hank, and he was phenomenal. Dude calls me like straight back. He's like, yeah, like I can set up a time, like when you want to come look at it, everything. And I walk in, and I was like, I will give you exactly what you're asking for. Like, I probably should have negotiated or did something, but everyone's like, did you like negotiate? Like, what'd you give them down to? I'm like, no, I told them I'd give them exactly what they asked for.
I think I
Like
answered
kid in
my
the candy
call
shop.
the first time I called, or he called me immediately back.
I was just like,
Dude's good at what he does.
I walked into the space and I was like, I will do whatever I have to do to
We
have
also
this space.
we didn't see like this kind of space come up like the whole time we were looking. So
It's a pretty
it's kind of a
rare, unique.
yeah.
Like, I just feel like
And this in the right area too.
the area couldn't be
So,
better. Now
Rare,
we-
unique, and our father did work about a building over.
Literally one block.
Yeah,
So
one
that's-
block over.
it's crazy how the world like evolves and how just everything works. Because I mean, we grew up half of our life at 315 Delaware. So when I see 415 Delaware come up one block over, I'm like, yesterday morning we're down getting breakfast burritos at the same place we got breakfast burritos at when we were 10 years old. Yeah. And it's just like, it's supposed, whatever's supposed to happen, happens. And it's the evolution of like what this has turned into is, I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't think it would happen this fast. And I thought I'd be in that bedroom a long time.
I think you told me maybe recently that this was your 5 to 7 year plan.
At 5 years, I wanted to be in space. And I was like, if at 5 years I could be in space. But I also, when I run on a very aggressive pace, I also run at a very conservative space in the same way. If that makes sense. Yeah. That I'm very calculated in what I do. I don't do stuff out of emotion. I don't do stuff like the space may have been a little bit out of emotion, but it was like
I know no negotiating was made.
I know. Like that was, but they were very fair on what they wanted.
I think it was a pretty decent deal.
They knew what they had.
And we knew that we were ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just something, oh, hey, that looks cool, let's go get it.
Yeah.
I mean, there for about a week, I thought Dane was on the point where he's like, we're moving out, we're getting something. And then about a week after that, he's like, okay, I found something, we can get something built. And then this pops up, it's like, it's perfect.
There's nothing worse as a business owner. I think the worst thing I've experienced since I've started this was when you get the feeling of being capped out by space. Like, it was ever since I've started, I felt like I have been full speed, foot on the gas, don't let up, like being as aggressive as possible, do everything possible. And the basement had finally came to where we were capped out. Eight of us in the basement.
We were trying to figure out where to put people in the basement if we were to hire more.
Like, it was at the point that I'm like, my street, I don't know where anyone else is going to park on the street.
For sure, capped by parking.
Yeah, and it's
1,000%.
like we were capped on parking. I mean, we were pretty close to Nick setting the ping pong table.
We would have to take the ping pong table out, which that would have just. I mean, how bad would that have lowered morale?
Yeah. So the ping pong table was on the verge of going, and I'm like, we could put 2 more desks over there. We get to 10 down here, but it was just like, there's no worse feeling than being like, we're in the space that we're in. That's one big count away. Yeah. You catch one big account that you have to go hire 2 or 3 people to man. All of a sudden, you're in a big pickle really fast.
Yeah.
And it was just something that, I don't know, that kind of started wearing on me. I sat up at night, and I'm like, I have to figure something out. And I'm like, I'm laying in bed at night looking at commercial space. I'm like getting up in the morning looking at commercial space. I'm like, and Madison was finally like, she's like, you got to let up. I'm like, I'm even on Craigslist again. I'm like, maybe somebody put something on Craigslist.
Someone's like, out there trying to sell something.
What's that?
Yeah. But it was just crazy on like, it became something that I knew my part of what I do now for Moss Marketing Group is like, that's what my duty was to get handled. Yeah. So.
Did you ever consider work from home options? I mean, I know a lot of companies go for that. What are your big advantages to having space over people working from home?
I don't fully agree with the whole work from home deal. Like, I'm not against it, but I just don't feel like in the creative space that we are in, I think it's good to be around other people. And I think I sit there and I watch the interactions of everyone here and what people come up with in a day. That now I watch over, and by watch over, I now have my like desk is like up in this loft.
Yeah, you look over
but
all of us. We get it.
It's so cool watching like everyone talk, and interact, and come up with something. That I'm like, that is exactly why we do what we do.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to be one that ever says like, hey, I can come up and I'm going to be right on all this. But if all 8 of us get together, I could promise you we're going to come up with something that's pretty phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And when you guys are talking about like marketing ideas for different companies and what we're going to do this way and like how their strategy should work or what that target audience looks like. And when you guys start like snowballing all that stuff together, you guys are all really good at taking everyone's input and coming up with a conclusion that is so much better than anything I could have ever thought of by myself. And that's why everyone is sitting where they're sitting now.
8 brains is better than 1.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, I just think that the work from home deal in our space, I think, is hard.
Yeah, definitely. I know I was talking to someone recently about their job and stuff like that, and it not a very good work environment. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, that's something where working from home in that aspect may be beneficial.
But there's also, and I'm not saying this in a bad way whatsoever, there's a lot of people that I see that work from home, and they have became very lazy in what they do.
Yes.
That
they hit that bare minimum, and that's as far as they're going.
Yeah.
I will say it takes a certain type of person to work from home.
I could not do
And
it.
I couldn't either.
Can't do it.
No.
Like, to be quite honest with you, I enjoy like my morning routine, getting up, taking a shower. Sometimes I go to the gym, and then just the drive to work. Like I get to like process everything on my way on the drive. Of like, what am I going to do today? What's my goal? What do I have to get done today?
I was discussing that same thing last night with my girlfriend. I'm like, I have my me time back because used to I went to school right down here at UMKC.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes.
Not a long drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 minutes every day. I would sit in my car on my drive down, and that was essentially my me time because when I went home, always had something going on at home. Oh, no matter what, if I'm at school, but my drive, just me, my thoughts, and I go over things in my head, and on my drive down, have that, and then on my drive home, I have it. And I was telling my girlfriend, I'm like, I have my me time back. I was so excited for that, even though it's just a 30-minute drive. Yeah. That little thing, I'm actually.
I don't want to hear it, bud. I literally had to walk down my stairs.
Yeah. We had talked before. Like, I don't know how he does.
Did you have
it.
your me time
Always
from
home.
your room in the basement?
Not always, but like that was just like you work from home and you're just.
I think the hardest part about it was when people are able to like relax at home at night. I had lost 100% of that. Like, I couldn't do that anymore. Like, people would leave. I would eat dinner with Madison, and I'm like, I'm going back downstairs. Like, I would go back downstairs and go back to work. Like, I got to where I couldn't turn it off. Like, I'm like, it's right there. I'm like, I'm literally like a flight of stairs away. I just go back to work. I'm like, and she's like, are you really going back downstairs? I'm like, you can come downstairs and watch.
So you're not putting a cot in here.
No, but it was just like, it got hard where I got up, went downstairs, went to work. Since we've started down here, last couple days have been like so nice driving to work.
You haven't experienced that for
a couple years.
Yeah, a couple years. That's incredible.
As weird as that seems, like just that, I don't know, 25 minutes driving.
Good news is, since you haven't done it in a while, gas prices went up.
I know gas prices are a lot higher than when they used to be. It's, I don't know, I think that's something that some people take for granted. Like, as silly as it sounds.
Yeah. Some people love working from home, though. I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, oh, I love it. I would never go back to the office if I didn't have to. I'm like,
there are too many distractions at my house.
Yeah.
That just in my personal opinion, I know self-discipline, all that stuff comes into play, but I can get my work done at home and all that. But like I said, like Dane said, I enjoy the atmosphere here, different mindset. While I'm here, I'm energetic, everything. Not saying I'm not energetic when I get home, but I'm energetic, and I feel like everyone fuels off of each other. So everyone's just in a great mood while you're here, and then you go home and you're in a great mood that night. Yeah. And even if you're having a bad morning, you come in, everyone's in a good mood. It makes so you don't have a bad day. You are more productive throughout your day. Like this morning, I didn't get in until, was it 1? I didn't get here till 1.
It's afternoon.
Oh my God, did you sleep in this morning?
I know, it was beautiful. No, I was out running around all morning, and then I finally get in at 1.
Part time.
Yeah, that's it.
Taking half days.
I get in and I'm like, everyone's just in a good mood. I start getting in a better mood. And I don't know, things like that when you're at a business that is like that, because there's a lot of businesses you go into and it's like, you can hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah. And I think there's some roles that working from home works better for. So if you're in a role to where you only have like your set work assignments, and then once you get those done, you're like, you don't have anything to do. The type of roles to where once you finish your work at the office, you just be twiddling around doing nothing. Those are beneficial. So like my girlfriend works from home, and she's in one of those roles as a consultant to where once she gets her projects done, she's done. If she doesn't have any more meetings, she has nothing else to do. And she's used that time to productively do other things to kind of grow her own brand of herself, and it's turned out well for her.
Even though I was working from home, I don't really think that was like working
I wouldn't classify yours as the same as typical
we
work
are
from home
classifying
roles.
that as working from home.
Yeah. We had transformed the whole entire basement into a full tilt operating office.
The entire
space.
house almost became a write-off just because
Yeah.
the whole thing was almost being used.
Oh yeah, we were definitely utilizing all of it. It was
I mean, at one point, I think we pitched to Madison putting a couple desks in the living room.
at one point I was pretty close to. We were about to take back over the bedroom that we started for extra space.
You did tell me that. You're like, hey, all of you guys can just go upstairs.
I was like,
put whiteboards all over.
I was like, if
I'm
you want a sales office, I was thinking about turning that into a sales
You're
office.
like trying to pitch it to Dre. He's like,
I don't want to go back,
I
man.
don't-
Man, it's hot up there.
We're going the wrong way. It's
Don't
80
send me
degrees.
back. No, but now I feel like we have space that we can grow into. I feel like we say that now.
You say, I was going to say, you say grow into, but like, what do you see this space being in a year, 2 years, 3 years?
That's like my thought process already. Like before we even started the podcast, I bought a fourplex of desks and everything, and I was already thinking about 4 more people, like right out the gate. On now that we have this space, like now we have once again that scalability number that I had in my head before. Now I think we can do it even faster. I think we can do it better. And I think that's a lot too on the scalability is great and what we're doing is great, but I think we're refining our product and our services so much more. And I
you
think
should be
that's
all the time.
making
Yeah.
the biggest difference. That, like I was saying earlier, like when I started out shooting in the dark. I feel like now we're actually really going in with, like, we had a call this morning with a company that they were trying to start with another marketing company. Another marketing company blew them off. Literally ghosted them. They haven't been able to get in contact with them. And we sent them over a full till marketing strategy, marketing report, every single thing that we can do to make their business better. And any business owner that we know out there, I would just reach out to us to do something like that. Just to see what's the worst case scenario.
Yep.
You say no. Like, it's not going to hurt us. It's not going to offend us or anything like that.
Not going to hurt our feelings.
But there's a lot of opportunities out there I don't think a lot of business owners look at. And I think with us taking a different approach like that, no company's coming in doing those things. And I think that as our product keeps getting better and better, I get more and more confident. As that confidence rises and rises and rises, it's like we're getting closer and closer and closer of taking that number one spot and saying, hey, like, no one's taking us down. And so I think this spot's going to end up being too small very quick.
Ping pong table. So, we need to grow and the ping pong table needs to go.
Yeah. But I'm also not opposed to having multiple locations. And
Are you willing to go out of Kansas City? We can put one down in Florida.
the opportunity would have to be right. Everything would have to make sense. Like, that's not something that
like you have to like know somebody. I don't know. Just
If it's going to fall into place, it'll fall into place.
I feel like that's definitely in the definitely a possibility.
it's definitely a
For
possibility, but it's something that I would want to I'd probably want to go there for 2 to 3 months myself and really drive, experience everything, understand the location really well. Because I think that's why we have such an advantage in Kansas City. I think that's why we do so much better than so many marketing companies, because there's some marketing companies based out of Kansas City, but they don't do anything like we do. And I feel like if you don't know the area, it's really hard to like. There's certain industries that we could still make work. Like the car business is something we can make work everywhere, sure, yeah, but we're very limited on what we can do targeting wise, things like that, because offering credit, so you're under special ag categories, things like that. But when you have full reign of targeting, you need to know your areas, you need to know your zip codes, you need to know all this stuff, and there's so much homework that goes into that. Yeah. Until we come to a spot where we can have 2 or 3 full-time location research people, which that's a position I've thought of having, that like I don't think there's really a lot of people out there that even, I don't even think that's really technically classified as a job.
I think someone would be thoroughly enjoyed getting that job.
But think about like what that could do for us, that we do that in Kansas City, but we also have all lived here, so we understand the areas. Think about if we take someone on in Utah or in Salt Lake. Do any of us really know the Salt Lake zip codes and how like everything works there?
No. Vaguely.
That's something where it would be a 30-day onboarding cycle, and then we'd have somebody that their full-time job would be for the next 30 days to do all the research and give us the most detailed reporting of every single thing that's going on.
Yeah, like, it's a very extensive process.
Yeah, so I think that's something that the Kansas City area, it's not that difficult for us because we know the area so well.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, do I think there's a time that it's going to expand out? Yes. Do I think that's now? Probably not. But I'm not real good at timing on everything. What do you guys think on? I know I feel like I've been.
No, you've been doing great.
I feel like I've been firing questions. What are your guys' like kind of thoughts on the progression? Are there things that you would have done differently? And kind of like, I know we've talked a lot about the space from the bedroom to the basement to here, and it's been a big shift for all of us. That's why I kind of want to have this podcast this week. But kind of what are your guys' thoughts on it all and what it all looks like?
I would say for me, you and I were both up in the bedroom starting off, joined on. I know the first night when you brought me on to help you with what you were doing, and then when the photo opportunity came up, we were sitting downstairs. Or in your living room. It was.
At that point, we did move, like, normally at about 7 o'clock, we'd move out of the bedroom, we'd work in the living room.
Yeah, it was
just because it was 2 of us.
We made money on our first car being photoed at 11:45 at night. It was like
when you finally got it uploaded.
And we're sitting there. It's finally done. We're like, this is going to be a challenge.
When I told Dre, I was like, hey, I found a money-making enterprise. So in Bonanza, Big Hoss and Little Joe, they were breeding Kirby rabbits, and they told each other, he's like, we got a money-making enterprise. So I told Dre, I was like, I got some money-making enterprise.
Yeah, it's 11:45. Dane's like, cha-ching. I'm like, nah, dude. I'm like, it's 11:45, and we just didn't make as much.
Do you know how much we made per hour today?
Not very good. Yeah. But after that, we got it ironed out, and we butted heads on a lot of things. But after that became a process, it went from one car getting uploaded at 11:45 at night to 30-plus units being done in a day. Yeah. That one unit became very profitable. But, yeah, from that, the growth of it, that took off very well. And then, like I said, I was transitioned into sales. Sales has been amazing. I've got to meet amazing people all over Kansas City from all walks of life, and it's awesome just to hear their stories. Where I see this going is I don't see this space lasting too long with all of us here, just because I think we will grow at it quicker than any of us anticipate. But I'm excited for the next phase. Dane's full-time job, I think here soon, is just going to be looking for space.
And invoicing.
And invoicing.
Until we hire.
That's something where
That will be off of my plate by the end of the year for sure.
that's another hurdle. But
I think we might should hire Connie. I think Connie needs
if Connie wants to come, she
needs to retire. She really does.
She is fully welcome to come work on the invoicing.
I think she's ready.
I think someone might just gotten hired here on the podcast.
Yeah.
She's like 76 years old and she works a full-time
Hey,
job.
call her and I'll offer the job to her.
Call her
right
on right now. We could mic her in.
It's our first live guest.
She'd be like, "Who is this?"
Ricky's over
Dalton,
there
is that
"Stop."
you?
You're on what? A what? A podcast?
No, but I think I think it's going to go a lot quicker than any of us expect, and I think the growth, I would not have changed any of it. I know there was days when I was doing things that I was like, man, this is rough. But like Dane said, it was a cash flow thing, and sometimes that cash flow needs to happen. And I was fine with keeping the money rolling in. And then other things took off. He's like, hey, I think we need to divert. And then, within 2-3 months, it was like, okay. And then Dane's like, hey, stop selling for like a few months. He's like, we need to get caught up. So then we got caught up, and he's like, all right, now go back out.
Yeah.
But that's where we've got to a point where we have people in place where it's not like, hey, stop. It's like, keep going. We're hiring people as we need them. And I think the next year or two, I think, are going to be a lot bigger than what we're anticipating.
Yeah. You ask about like what you would change. I don't really like to look back on stuff like that. Like, decision was made and everything's worked out phenomenal how we are. So like, I wouldn't have changed anything. My biggest like takeaway, I think it was like the turn of the year. It was like January, February, where we just like went like just like literally we probably almost doubled.
I think it was finally something though that I don't know if it was something in my head or something like. I feel like we had done good until there, but I feel like we hadn't like. I don't know. I don't feel like we were going after the potential that we had.
You were still integrated in the day-to-day, like literally,
which
just working.
That really was a turning point because what Ricky and Lauren brought to the table was a lot of what I was doing. I was the content creator still at that point. And that's something I very much enjoy doing. Like, I feel like that is such a fun spot to be in on like graphic design, on like video editing, on photos. And a lot of times that's what I worked on when I went back downstairs every day. Like when I went back downstairs, it was because I knew I needed to go make graphics. I knew that I needed to go work on video. I knew that like, and the video editing side was something that if my head wasn't in the right space, I couldn't edit well.
I remember you tell me in the morning, you're like, worked out all night and trashed them both this morning.
I've gave it a couple of runs.
It's a hard thing to do. And it's something that when Ricky and Lauren came to the table, that was kind of like my last key that I had to find. Like, I felt like I had all these keys that, like, I remember when both Logan and Dalton were like, you had gotten out of the photos and you came to help with the marketing because we started acquiring more marketing accounts, and I approved every single ad.
Yeah.
I remember you guys would sit there and build ads, and I was sitting there approving them, and that was damn near a full-time job by itself.
At dinner, literally at dinner.
Yeah. And it was like one of those things that I had to start learning how to lift my hand off everything, that I can't watch 100% of everything. Yeah. And I think when I did that, that was a huge stride forward. And then I think after that, I knew that I had these like, I'd always kind of set them up as like these like pillars, keys, whatever you want to look at. And if I set them all the right way, the right people, I feel like it runs like a well-oiled machine. And right after all of those were set, I feel like right at that spot was like when everything was just, since then it's just been like this, but it's also something that in the future we've now created that top of that pyramid. I feel like that now it's like down below that when someone comes on in the future, they're not directly going to answer to me.
Yeah.
Like, we now have the sales side. We now have the graphic design side. We now have the dealership inventory management side. We now have content side. We now have the ad. Like, we have all these spots that need to be covered. And now that those are all covered, when people come on in the future, they can go underneath one of those departments.
Yeah.
And I think when you get that structure, I feel like that's where a company really kind of turns a corner.
Yeah, it really starts becoming organized.
Yeah. I feel like we have all the building blocks set now.
Yeah.
And
We're
now
about to hit the straightaway.
They always say the first $1 million you ever make is the hardest million you'll ever make. And I
I
definitely
can believe that.
have became to see that true.
They say the first million, your first 5 million, I think it's your first 15. After that, it's really easy.
They say that first. Where the hell did you hear that?
I don't know. I heard it somewhere.
No, they said that.
I may have been dreaming. I don't know.
I was watching something that they said after the first $1 million, the rest of it follows. They said that first 10 million's 10 times easier than the first $1 million. But the way I now look at that is that first $1 million, you're building those building blocks. And that I feel like is the hardest spot. And I think after that is like created. And I think I'll say that there's a lot of things that, like, once again, I don't like going back and saying I do things different. There's a lot of things, if I could tell myself 2 years ago, I would do a lot of things different then. But
now, I know you for darn sure, and you're going to mess up yourself before going, oh, I'm going to do that. You will definitely try it yourself and be like, you know what? Like you say, everyone's going left, I'm going right. Someone's like, you should do it this way. You're like, oh, no, go this way. And then you're like, I should have done that way.
yeah.
But it's worked out very well because a lot of times people have went right. You're like, I'm going to try something different. And it has worked in your success.
Yeah, it's. I just think being the same as everyone else is. I don't know. Everybody does the same thing, expects different results, and everyone ends up with the same results because they all did the same thing. So it's. I don't know. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I agree with Dalton. I don't really like looking back on it and being like, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. I don't think that's good for any aspect of life, but takeaways are huge. And I really agree with what you say about like the first $1 million or the first whatever. It's about getting your reps in and learning from those reps. So in anything you do, like take baseball, for example, before you can run and catch a ball in the outfield and throw it to home plate, you've got to learn how to first catch a ball, how to throw the ball just 10 feet. Once you take those 1,000 reps throwing the ball 10 feet, you're going to be pretty darn good at it. And that's going to make it second nature and easy. And it's the same way building a business. I mean, that first year, that first couple of years, that's about not what can I achieve, it's about what can I learn. And I think we've done a really good job of all of us staying like level-headed about it and taking those hard times that we've had, not very many, but, you know, just a few learning lessons and looking at it from the positive aspect.
That's the other thing that I very, very, very much enjoy with a team around myself is I feel like everyone is very open-minded on not being like, well, I did this and it didn't work, but I'm right.
Yeah.
Like, no one's too big to say, hey, I was wrong. And, like, I've done things that were wrong. Like, I mean, I've went back to businesses and said, hey, that was my fault. Like, I'm not charging you for that. Like, I messed that up and that's on our dime. Like, it is what it is. But it's, if you can be accountable on everything that you do and, I don't know, learn from those mistakes, things like that, then I'm never going to fault anyone for them.
I think that's the biggest thing too is, like I said, don't ever look back, but like, yeah, don't look back, but you can like look back and see like what's the learning lesson for me. Like, you know, you can look back on it. I mean, don't regret anything, but like just take it as a lesson.
Remember the
teaching
past, but
move.
don't let it guide your future.
Yeah, and that's where, like,
I mean,
the things that when I say I would, like, look back on is the things I've learned.
But you took
And-
them as a teaching lesson.
Yeah. I've learned more in the last 2 years than I feel like I have the last, like, 10 years of my life.
I don't know. You went
never
to
stop learning.
college for science.
Yeah. No, but it's just
Hey,
like
we're
one of-
top tier scientists, buddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Prof Dolph.
you can
What's your name tag?
I knew that was coming out of
you
it.
can never stop learning and never stop, I don't know, pursuing that next level.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference in what we do and what a lot of other companies do. And I don't know, I have, 5 to 10 people a week message out to us about so many different things, like business wise, and the podcast has brought in a lot of that too. And it's crazy how many conversations I have with people over Instagram and Facebook weekly over something they heard on the podcast and they want to talk to me directly about
I
it.
saw some dude message you earlier.
Yeah. But it's like him putting, like, people just, they're all connected to my Facebook, so they see that stuff come in. But it's, everyone wants to talk about, like, something on that. And I appreciate that.
It's like networking, bro. It's just
I want people to reach
Just-
out. I don't care if people own a business. I don't care if they work at McDonald's. If they want to talk on something like that, reach out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to, like, discuss that stuff.
And that's
But-
why we do this. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't charge a fee for this or anything.
No,
I mean,
and there's so many things I've, like, told in the podcast and stuff like that a lot of consulting people charge a lot of money to go
Yeah.
learn. And but once again, it's like what we're talking about now, and we're talking about, like, opening up your head and learning how to level up everyone around you and how to scale a business and how to do stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of value in those things. And there's a lot of value in, I don't even know what I'm really trying to say on, like, the going back and the,
I feel like we get we give knowledge during the podcast, but we also get knowledge ourselves from our learning. But then we hear back from other people that are like, we just have a conversation with them and, like, we learn something from them too.
yeah.
Yeah, even
So
if
it's
they,
just like a full circle, like,
yeah. And that's just part of having networking and having a conversation. I mean, in whatever position you're in life, like, you're always going to benefit from putting yourself out there, having conversations with people, and getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, 4 months ago? The four of us sat on this couch for the first time.
That was the most uncomfortable
That
thing
was
I've-
pretty uncomfortable.
probably the most uncomfortable thing I've done
If you
want to
know how uncomfortable
No,
it
you-
was, just go back
really?
to episode 1 and you will see.
Yeah.
when you guys were all giving me shit at the same time. Yeah,
What?
that was fun.
No.
I think we need to rewatch to see if that actually happened. I don't think it
Yeah.
I did.
Rewind the tape.
Rewind. I want to see if that happened.
Next episode, it's just going to be rerun.
Yeah.
It's just going to be camera focused on you.
Is it?
I think we just have Ricky Photoshop Dalton into every position on the couch.
Well, I asked Ricky if he could Photoshop biceps on me. But
Yeah. No, I just think it's kind of funny that where something that, of course, I've been on every podcast, so now it becomes something that's a lot easier for me. When we first started this, it was like I was 10 times more scared to start a podcast than I was starting Moss Marketing Group. Like, when I started Moss Marketing Group, I'm like, I got this. And then started a podcast, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I opened up my mouth and said I was going to do it, so now I have to do it.
yeah, you
And-
did. I thought you were. I was like, this is gonna happen at first. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we thought. And then it's like we left Friday, came back Monday. We're like,
There's
man,
all
there's a
this shit
podcast
there.
studio. All right.
But it was just like one of those things that I think that's just the right people around you leveling up and pushing to that next level. And it's now the podcast has turned into something that I feel like another 12 months where I have 5 to 10 people reach out a week. It's going to be 50 to 100 people reaching out a week.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you turn it into where it's becomes this monster networking space. And if out of 100 of those people, if we can give 90 of them advice to help out their business and 10% we can pick up their business, awesome.
Well, even guide them down the road. Like if they need something for their business and we had a client on here that could help them out, that in my mind is worth it as well.
Yeah. And that's, I would say, at least for me, that's the goal with it, for it to become a big community.
Yeah. And that's this space. I don't know if it deems suitable for what I want it to turn into, but I'm expecting this to turn into something in another year where we have a space that is rented out every single Thursday evening that people can come to see the M3 podcast live. And the only way that you're invited to that is after you've been on it.
Yeah.
So it
That's
turns
been a
in,
goal from day one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that I said when the day this started, I said in 2 years, we can have Kansas City's largest networking event every single Thursday. And it not being like some BNI deal where you come in, you have to write on a card and like something like where I have to give Dawn work to be there and I got to pay all this money. It's like Moss Marketing Group will cover food for everyone, drinks for everyone, and come watch the M3 podcast live on a Thursday night.
But donations to Dre are welcome.
But I just think that's something cool that, like I said, that's something it's going to turn into one day. And I think with this, with Moss Marketing Group, with just everything that we're doing, I think it goes in the right direction. And I've said it a million times, and it's not me that's doing it. It's everyone that's around. I think as long as everyone keeps getting placed the right way, I don't think there's any way that it goes the other way, as in backwards.
I can agree with that.
Fourth.
But
Sounds like you summed it up pretty well.
But I think that once again we're in our new space, so it's a little different view for the M3 podcast than it has been before.
We
Yeah,
set
no
the-
more green walls.
Set the mood.
Hey, we don't
as
know if the green walls are totally
No more
out yet.
ivy.
Yeah. No, I actually like the green walls.
I just haven't removed them yet. I was almost thinking about making like
Kind of reminds
all the
me
way
of
around the. Do what?
What?
like Wrigley.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about doing
It's
all the way
baseball
around
fanatic.
like the base in green, and then like doing some neons up top with a TV there.
We got the couch
So-
in place today. I think that was enough for today.
This was
Yeah.
quite a chore to make
Was a good
this
spot.
happen
We
today.
just have to see how
Send
the
us a
background
message
looks
and let
now.
us know if you
See
like
how
the
it looks
green.
now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Might look good.
Yes. Say if you want to see this in all green, or if the white's okay.
Yeah.
Send it directly to Ricky. We'll have Ricky do it.
Ricky Hughes on Facebook.
But anything else you guys have to add?
I think it was
Any last thoughts?
pretty comprehensive.
Nah, pretty pretty excited moving forward. I've had a great time working for the company.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
I
I
think
may
you-
be partial.
I think
I
you
have to say
echo that for all of us.
Yeah. Dre has to say, I gave him $20 before.
Is that it?
I don't know. I think this is a special one. Let's cheers real quick before
Yeah.
we sign off.
This is cheers to the new space.
My headset ain't reaching that far, guys.
It's going to look a little different from now on.
What episode is this?
That's a great question.
Ricky, what episode are we on? 18.
18. Oh, man. I thought 4 months was a high estimate. That was low.
So we've at 8. Is this number 18? So this is the podcast number 18, the original
I remember
4.
the first one. It was snowing that day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
first one we did in the snow.
It's July.
And
now.
we have, guess what? We have not missed a single week since
We have not.
started.
We have
And
not.
Here's to 18 more.
that's being accountable, being disciplined. And here's to 18 more of them,
Here's the 180 more.
180 more of them.
you go.
At that point, we'll be in a private space, live.
Yeah.
And on that, I'm going to say that's the M3 podcast, and we're signing out. So, Key Ricky.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.